honestly, thank you so much for coming today, especially on such a stunning day when really all you want to do is sit in the garden and not be in a really warm room. So today is all about what's my chuffing end game. So exit planning is always something that brings fear, I think, into people in terms of going, I've just started my business, I'm not really thinking about an exit. But exit planning also helps us today as well as in the future. And so that's kind of where I want to come from it today. So to start with, I love this photo team. And I'm in the way, Gary, sorry. Design a business that's saleable, sustainable, and it doesn't suck the soul out of you, because boy, can't businesses suck the soul out of you if we're not careful. And so what I want us to take today is building a business that we can perhaps step away from one day. Now, it was about 3 years ago when I bought my business partner out, and I'd kind of created myself a really pretty cage. I was at that point where I was the only one that could review. I was the only one that could have some of the higher level kind of conversations, the tax advice. I worked, so summers, were all about my freedom with my children, and I worked so much that summer, like absolutely. And I realised at that point when I kind of signed the paperwork with Ian, who's still an amazing friend, like it's all done amicably. But it made me realise that I was becoming trapped in my own business, and I knew for their well-being of me, for the well-being of the team, for the well-being of the company, that I couldn't carry on running in that way. So I went away and kind of looked at different things in terms of making sure there was more structure in the business so that other people were reviewing, making sure that I get so involved. I love working with clients, and the clients that work with me will know that. But I knew that I had to kind of be able to step away from all of that so that I could focus on running the business, because gosh, there's a lot that we spin, isn't there? So one thing is for certain, you are going to exit your business, and actually it's making sure that we exit in the right way, because sometimes it's ill health that forces us to close the business, or looking after somebody else, and it might be a forced sale. It could be even liquidation. Sometimes, the amount of member voluntary liquidations and creditor voluntary liquidations that we see now, because tax surprises, HMRC just catch us unawares. So what I really want us to think about is making sure that we're doing it on our terms. Now, it might not be riding off into the sunset, as everybody kind of perhaps thinks, in terms of going, I'm going to get that nice 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, whatever your number is, and kind of going and living on a sailing boat. But we will come back to an example. So it's starting to get really clear. Now, there's loads of different ways you can exit, and I kind of just wanted to quickly look at this, but Fred, I think we'll probably talk a little bit about this in a little bit as well. So selling to a strategic buyer, liquidating your assets. You can still do that in terms of, especially if you're a consultancy business and you've been, accumulating cash in the business, and you may only be a solopreneur, actually then going, right, I've got this money now, I'm ready to retire, actually I'm going to liquidate the business and take the cash out. That's still an option for now. Might not be in the future with all the capital gains tax, but that is an option. A partial exit, so that might be venture capitalist, it might be selling partly to a business partner, business partner, let me make sure I pronounce that right. Doing a partial exit. Management buyouts, obviously another route. And one might be transferring to the kids. Now, I can't imagine Eva and William running Vibrant Accountancy, don't worry, guys. But there may be that kind of option that's there. And obviously, we know a lot of businesses that are family-run businesses too. And the other option might be, well, I'm going to stay in here, but I'm just going to recruit an MD who's going to just run the business for me, but I'm going to stay here and kind of be in a completely different capacity. So what I want you to do is I want you to zoom out. I want you to kind of think about what is the dream, and that's what we've got to get really clear about. And I think Gary's done this really well in terms of getting clear, and we'll talk to him in a little bit too. The people that don't regret selling their business have got a really clear vision of what they're doing post-business. So they know that they want to set this charitable organisation or run this new business, and it's documented, they know where they want to travel. Without that, we're kind of just a little bit lost as to where we're going to go into the ether. I wanted to bring this one up in terms of going for retirement, and I can't remember the actual people that do this, but they did the research from Loughborough University. So for a 2-person couple to be comfortable in retirement, if you retire at, say, 60 and we live for 30 years, £61,000 we need per year to live a kind of a comfortable lifestyle. So there's all the different ones. You can do a 13k, which is a minimum one for just one person. But I've based my numbers on this 61,000. That's going on, I think, 2 holidays a year, you know, nice food, getting nice dining experiences still. So what does £61,000 look like? Now, assuming that you're both entitled to state pension, which obviously make sure that you contribute in your pension bits, make sure you're paying yourself over that 6,000, whatever it is, to make sure you're still ticking the box from a state pension perspective as well. This means that we've got a gap of £37,000 of income when we retire on that day, you know, we're now 60. So we can then think about what other income, investments, rentals, part-time work perhaps that we might do to get close to that gap. But what we do, and we'll talk about this 4% in a minute, 4%, and I'm not an investment advisor, so it's a shame there was a couple coming today, so they could have kind of taken this slide and actually spoken to you about it. But the 4% is almost saying that you're drawing that money out, 4% of your funds each year to live on. So that's where we're going, well, we need 37,000, we're going to divide it by the 4%. That means we need a pot of 925,000. That's quite staggering, isn't it? Shaun Oshman, I think his name is. This is the gentleman here, not Gary. Sorry. he's on this, lovely. Now, he ran an IT business. He hit 40 and, I don't know, maybe had a midlife crisis, but he realised what he always wanted to do was he wanted to live on a sailing boat. And he was really clear on that as a vision. Good business, couple of million turnover, a couple of 100,000 profit level at the bottom. But he knew how much he needed to live on this sailing boat. He lived in Denver, knew he needed to get out of Denver. And so he went to his broker and he actually got 2.6 times his profit levels. We don't know exactly what that is, but that's quite a low multiple, so thinking about it. But he was super happy because he you know what I mean? He exited, he knew where he was going, it was what he always wanted. So there was just that little bit of a reminder of going, let's not push it too much sometimes. And once you know your number, kind of try and stick to that. And I think that's the question we're going to go through in a second. I want you to think about another way. Now, if we'd all been lucky enough to start putting into our pension at 35 and been putting £20,000 in through our business, which is an amazing way of putting our tax relief in, the value at age 60 based on 7% as your kind of average returns, £815,000. So our business could have almost got to that gap. And that's kind of not expecting any kind of future growth, obviously, if you were 60 and kind of let it carry on contributing, or if you'd done more than 10 years contributions. So crazy compounding in terms of, especially if you can start the earlier. So my thing as to why I kind of showed you more options is going, even if you sat here thinking, well, I'm not at 35, thanks, Bev. I'm not either. Don't worry. You can still do things, and we can put up to £60,000 in our pension pot each year as well. So I want us to kind of start thinking about how are other ways. It doesn't always have to be in an exit. Right, I've printed these off so you don't have to do them now. This will enable you to calculate your freedom score, and it will look a bit similar to the next one. Now, this is a horrible graph, isn't it? Are you ready? You with me? This one is our probability of failure on the side here. So it's not going to fail at all, 100% likely to fail. This bottom line is, this is fully in cash, this is fully in shares. With me so far? You can say no, it's fine. I like people to say no. And then this one's kind of looking at that. So, you know, I said we were looking at a 4%. We're taking 4% of that pot to live on each year. 3% is the new one that's banded around as well because it's really risk-free, they say. 4% you're really unlikely to run out of cash again. So if we look at assuming we've got 60% of our money tied in shares, the rest in cash, you can see that here these ones are almost, you're not going to run out of cash in effect, is what this is trying to say. But it's a very kind of complicated graph to get there. I know.
Okay, yeah.
So in effect, 3 or 4%. It's dividing that number again. And we'll do one based on the 3 now. And you literally just multiply the amount you need, that income you need, by 25 or by 33 if you want to play it safe, is what I'd probably take from that. So if you want £50,000 per year and we're going to play it safe, that's 33. That's going to mean we need to get 1.65 million. Now, saying we've built up some other assets elsewhere that are 340,000, we might have a second property, we might have been good with our pension pots, but perhaps we've got a little bit of debt that's connected to that, some credit cards. So actually, we've got net assets outside of our business, so cash or what have you, 300,000. So it means we've now got a gap of 1.35 million. Now, the scary thing is, and again with Fred, to get to that 1.35 million, there's a lot of other things you need to start thinking about. We'll not talk about the long-term debt, but commissions, legal fees, tax. Gary is nodding because he knows it well. 32% extra you could bolt on there. Now, there is an ability to perhaps get tax at 10% on the first £1 million, but just doing it as a worst case, that means that now if we rely on our business to fund that lifestyle of that 1.35 million, we need a value of 2 million to get the cash we need. Again, risk on, risk off. This is a stock term, and this is all thinking about this freedom point. So, you know, when we start out a business and it's not perhaps worth much, we're very risk off. We've not got much of our wealth tied up in our business. But as we then hit that freedom point of, say, £1 million, just to make it easy, as soon as the value of our business is over that £1 million, we're now in a risk-on position, because actually we know that we could live our lives quite freely if we have that cash available. So we kind of, all your chips are on black, I guess, or red, whichever one you go for. And that's what happened to this guy. So Rand Fishkin, he, pretty sure he was SEO or PPC. And this is his quote: "He kicked a gift horse in the mouth and decided to take it to the next level." So he got a multiple that he never dreamed of getting. It was an exit value that he honestly had no idea he'd ever get. And because of that, I suppose that thought of going, someone's like offering me this, maybe I could get it to the next figure, maybe I could get to 10 million, 20 million. But he lost it all. And he actually ended up liquidating the business as well. So he was definitely risk on, bless him. Oh, that was heavy, wasn't it? But so if we start thinking about, I know, what's the good news? There's something you can do about it. Thank you, Fred. So what I want you to think about a bit in your business as well. If you couldn't come in tomorrow, would your business survive? Would it thrive, or would it flatline? So start thinking about, what do I need to do to actually help my business kind of survive? And there's 8 drivers of value. Now, yeah, so these are the things I want us to look at, and also go in, how do they impact us now as well, though? Because sometimes, you know, thinking about future Bev, it's a future Bev problem. I'm not thinking about exiting right now. That's not for me. But maybe actually it's kind of going, well, how does that help me in this minute? So financial performance is all starting to look at, I'm sorry, but are your books nice and clean? Like, are your records clean? Are you keeping your bookkeeping up to date? Are you looking at your cash? Are you looking at your management accounts? I know some people are like, maybe not. But the cleaner your numbers are and the clearer they are, obviously you've got that ability to make those more confident decisions. If we've got more profit, we can do that lovely profit extraction, do the pensions, do the compounding, and we can actually have 2 different strategies then. And there are fewer surprises then as well, because you know about the tax liabilities and everything coming too. But from a future side, having those books, having those management accounts means that the buyer's got more confidence. Actually, strangely, turnover can really impact. So the higher your turnover is, you're almost considered a little bit more trusted again, in terms of it, less likely to rely on the owner if it's a higher turnover business, because you're not going to be able to do everything. But that's, again, we'll talk about. And then a higher EBITDA, another nice jargon number, your profit really, means that we're likely to be able to get a higher multiple. Growth potential is another great one, because remember, from a business side, if you're selling, that's your exit. You've done your 32 miles, haven't you? You've run your marathon. But actually, for the person buying, that's mile 1. Like, they want to see the growth potential of how they're going to take this forward. But from now, obviously, that helps us kind of look at that. What's scalable? Where can we get a bit of a return? How can we grow? All that kind of thing. But it obviously gives those buyers that future returns and a clear roadmap, which hopefully then gives you a better sales price. Switzerland structure. Now, I'm not thinking like evasion of tax or Toblerone, which is what I usually think of when I think of Switzerland. But this is reliance on one person. So one supplier, one customer, one team member even. So it's making sure there's no single point of failure, because otherwise we are going to be in that position where even for now, if that person leaves or that supplier goes under or that customer leaves us, we're in a kind of a really vulnerable position, which means we've got a little bit more control, less stress, we can sleep at night, we're not worrying at 3 o'clock in the morning when we've had the murmurs that perhaps a client's unhappy. But from a future perspective as well, when the buyer looks at it and starts assessing where your income's made up of and all that kind of thing, they can see that you've really diversified your risk. Valuation seesaws, all looking at cash. So the better our cash flow now, actually, we know that we've got a bit more working capital. We're not in that kind of panic stage at times. And again, if you've got a really good working cash cycle, so we're not having to need as much cash as well for working capital month in, month out, it means the buyer that's about to acquire you doesn't have to put even more money in to fund the future of the business, and actually they can rely on, they can give you a better multiple, hopefully. Recurring revenue. I think I talk about recurring revenue so much because it's just like that sanity, isn't it? That if we can get recurrable revenue, we can plan so much easier. We don't have to worry about where the next kind of big job's going to come in, and it just gives us that stability to again breathe and not be in that feast and famine cycle. And again, if we've got recurring income, especially if it's high contracts, perhaps over multiple years, all helps with that valuation side for the future. Monopoly control is all about like your unique selling point. How do you differentiate from your customers? Now, again, if we've got a clear niche, we're more likely to have droves of clients coming to us. It was really interesting. I think it might have been Serena who did a post about this as well, in terms of sometimes you feel quite vulnerable putting yourself out there, don't you, in terms of going, I've got a niche and I'm going to stand to it and I'm going to be really clear about what's expected of me, because I'm a little bit fearful perhaps of rejection, because actually if I put myself into this bracket, you might not want that service. But actually being super clear on that gets rid of price pressure, because there is nobody else similar to you, and it actually gives you that basis to be able to command your price and be the key person of influence. And it makes sure you get amazing clients that you then work with, happier days. And again, for the future, it means that you're a bit more appealing from an acquisition perspective as well. Customer satisfaction, it's all about the customer, isn't it? As in, the happier your clients are, the more likely they're going to stay, the more likely they're going to refer. But actually, and it means, oh my God, how lovely is it when we've got clients that are like, yes, we love working with you. It's just the best thing in the world, isn't it, when we're in that position? So amazing for today and for the team, but also for the future side as well. Looking at that Net Promoter Score, has everybody heard of a Net Promoter Score? They can actually look at it and then they can start building kind of, well, what's the likelihood of returns and like how many customers are going to stay and all that kind of thing. So that's a really good basis. How many have I done now? 7, 8th, hub and spoke. Hub and spoke is about us as business owners. We end up being the middle, don't we, of our kind of, think of a wheel all the time. All the decisions kind of come back to us. It can feel really effective and efficient when we're a small business. Actually go in, you come to me, I'll make the decision, we can move on from that. But it means that everything's on your shoulders, every decision that needs to be made. And it's kind of actually starting to create that framework that systems over superheroes. I kind of like that phrase, in terms of going, actually, if we can create a strategy to deal with something. And the great way is to go on holiday, have a week off. What are the things that come up when we've got that week off that we then need to create a process for? Like what halted? Or if there is that call when you're on holiday of going, what's this? You know that that's the first thing that you need to sort out when you get back. And then go for a little longer holiday. So maybe it might be a few days, a week, 2 weeks, perhaps even try and take a month off and see what are the sticky points of making sure that that business can run without you, because there's so many other things that you do. We're always going to be busy. So you can get your report. I do advise you to do this in terms of on your businesses. It'll give you an overall score as to where you sit. And then I can just drop me a note to say that you have done it, and I will give you a little buzz just to explain what it means, because you'll look at it and go, okay, what does this number mean? Don't be intimidated by it. I will stop talking and I will start talking to our lovely panel in a second. So the one thing I do want us to say, she's like, nah, she won't.
Just checking in.
You're a lovely panel. If we're thinking about exiting at 60, say, a lot of the time there's an earn out, especially if you're just selling to a strategic buyer or perhaps even a management buyout team. Minimum, they might want you for 3 years. They may want you for 7 years. So actually, we're not going at 60. Fred's like, no way. So you might need to be thinking at 50, before you're 53, of what that route way is going to be again. But we'll touch on all that. So we've got Fred and Gary here today. We're going to start off with Fred, and I'm going to go to my questions on my phone because even though I only sent them you yesterday, I've forgotten them. So Fred's used to working on that kind of exit strategy with his clients. So I really wanted us to have that kind of real world, how does this actually impact? So Fred, you've obviously worked with a lot of business owners. When should someone start thinking about their exit? Is it 53 if they're 60? Or am I doing a nice common myth? I'm going to sit down.
The reality is, and you don't like to hear it, is when you start it straight away. There is never a time you shouldn't. And I've been through that cycle myself as a business owner. They're thinking like, well, I'm just going to do this and see how it goes for now. And then I'm going to move to this next stage and I'll do that. And then as I go through the learning journey, and now as I've helped other businesses go through the exit cycle and involved in M&A as well, the sooner, the better. And it has a number of advantages. It's not just, oh, but it means one day I might be able to sell my business. But it really means one day, sooner, I can define the lifestyle I want. Because if I want to be able to sell my business, and we'll come on to the reasons what people are looking for, the sooner you get it in a sale-ready state, the sooner you have a better life. And the sooner you get to say, well, actually, I am going to take that holiday. I am going to do this. And I think sometimes what people do get confused of with particularly the smaller end of SMEs is if the business relies solely on you, which we'll come on to a bit more, then it's a job, not a business in reality. So it's trying to work out what do you want. And it is personal choice, just like a number is a personal choice. They're all personal choices. But the sooner the better.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree with that. Oh no, it's gone. And what's the biggest myth then that you see about business exits? Have I done a biggest myth today?
I think the number in terms of the age is one of the ones I would pick up from your presentation. The age thing is a myth that is sort of forced into us from school. There's this sort of 60, 65 number, and that's manufactured. The number when you're free, and I've put posts out about like, forget the word retirement, talk about freedom. When are you free to live your life the way you want to live it? That's the number that you need. And when is that number? Well, it's as soon as you do it. If it's at 25, well done. And if it's at 55, well done. But just this, and the reason that's wrong, and I'll come on to it because I did have another answer for this, but I've picked up on it. The reason it's wrong is if you're aiming for at a point in time, stuff happens. Yeah. Stuff happens on the way. Health, family, COVID, financial crashes, all kinds of AI coming on, another tech coming online that just wipes out the business and the need for your business. Your time to sell is when it's totally sale ready, you're getting the number that you're thinking you wanted for it, and you've got an active interest to buy it. When those things align, that's when you do the deal, regardless of your age.
And I think that is the huge bit, isn't it? I think all business owners, especially that I talk to, crave that freedom. And that is the huge bit. And actually, as you've said, doing these things and getting ready isn't necessarily for the future. It isn't necessarily for the exit. It is for the whole well-being of today.
It is for the well-being of today, because you never know when, at some point in the future, you might be on one knee or two knees, and then you're at the mercy of, well, who's going to buy my business? Well, is it ready? Well, no, but I was going to get it ready, and it could be ready, and honestly, it's really good, and all that kind of thing. And the other myth I was going to come on to is just this, your business is what you and a broker have decided it's worth. Yeah. All right? I've met this broker, they've told me we've adjusted the EBITDA so that, which is like we've fiddled with the profits so that it looks loads bigger than what it actually is. And it's really plausible why we've redefined that. And now the brokers assured me that we can get this multiple on it based on stuff I don't really understand. Yeah. And based on that, I've signed up now to be put on their website on a 2-year exclusivity deal. I've paid them between 5 and 20 grand to do that. Without knowing that they don't sell many businesses, they rely on people like me giving them money to put them on their website. And so then, of course, they give you a value and you'll never achieve that value because it was never achievable in its current state. But neither are they. They probably know some businesses are going to be selling, which is the 90%. The reason 90% don't sell is because they're not really in a state to sell, and there's not active buyers looking for them. So they'll put you on and then watch you struggle, and then often you'll end up falling off and getting bored, and it winds down, and
do a
all the other
liquidation
stuff.
or something instead. Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? So how do you help people find their freedom number? Do you get involved in that side of it?
I mean, in terms of your personal freedom number, I'm not a wealth advisor, so
No.
I'm not going to give any personal financial advice, caveat and small print and everything else. What you do is, if people have this number and say, this is what I want for my business, you can reverse engineer it to some extent. So you say, well, I can look at across your business, and we can look at your sector, the kind of, going through those, the kind of recurring revenues, what the state of your management team is, what the state of your financial profit is, all the different things. And we can go based on your sector, a business like yours and people like you, and your revenue size, because how big you are will affect the multiple. Based on all of that, this is where you're at, and let's see if that lines up with your number. And if it doesn't, these are the ways you can get there. And that could be growth, it could be acquisition, it could be partnering up, it could be, there's different ways. Sometimes,
Changing your number.
yeah. Changing your number, absolutely. And and like an example, one I spoke, two businesses, like one business I spoke to the guy recently, and he owned a software company, and he said to me, I want $500,000 for my business. And I said, great, how much of it do you own? I went, 50%. Okay, so now we're at $1 million already. And then we go through the numbers, and I sort of sit there and I'm like thinking, basically it's quite a small software business, 300k turnover, 80k profit, but there's no directors taking salary, which means if you put one person in, there's no profit. So now I'm looking at a non-profitable company that you want £1 million for. We have £1 million gap between where your business is and what the number you want. Yeah. Or another one where like a sort of £6 million haulage company, running for like 20, 30 years. They want 7 million for the company, and they've done all the adjusted EBITDA to try and take it from really about 400k profit to about 900k profit, which was just obscene what they were trying to do. Valued at 7 million. When you do the numbers, no matter which way you try and do the numbers, you're like, this business isn't worth more than 3 to 4 million quid, and 2 million of that was asset of the land it was sat on. You know what I mean? It was like the rest of the business isn't worth what you've been told. So now they're never going to want to sell because this is the price they've been told they can get this price, and it's not worth that price.
And you're only going to get whatever a buyer's willing to pay.
It's so true. And people don't know that it's not just a case of there's not all these buyers out there like there are for houses. House can always keep dropping until eventually someone buys the house, or bricks and mortar. It's not the same with businesses. You keep dropping until you just close and disappear.
I don't know if you can remember what those 8 drivers were.
Yeah.
But is there one in your experience that gets most neglected or overlooked?
So I know what the 8 drivers are, and the
Just to confirm.
I don't use them all the time, but they're a great reference point. Recurring revenue is the bit I tend to go into businesses, and regardless of the size, whether it's 2 million or 25, and there's a company I'm working with at the minute, 35 million turnover, and it's like we need to drive more recurring revenue into this, and it's so, some people are very kind of like, because with sales you're often, end of the month you've got to start again, end of the month you've got to start again, and you're trying to say, well, let's build this growing cumulative base underneath, but the security for a buyer coming in means you can double, triple your often value of your business because of the recurring revenue, because it's guaranteed. And then say, so you've got people on a recurring stream, are they on a contract? Oh no, no one's on a contract. Okay, so if someone else comes in, all your customers can cancel straight away. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's good that you've got this repeating income, but not good that there's no contractual commitment there.
And it's really interesting as well, because I don't think people always think about how you can get repeatable income or recurring income, and actually going through some of the different kind of slightly quirky ones. Like we've got a client who does like a gift box as well now, so they've got stock that they can pop in a box and send off as like a monthly membership, even down to like front of the queue. So I was talking to a client this morning in terms of going, actually, if I can sell my services to them, but they've got guaranteed time of mine booked in the diary already, so they know they can use me first and they've not got to kind of jump into a waiting list. That's actually quite powerful. And so you can actually start thinking about recurring income in that way as well. There's so many different ways. And it's hard because we didn't even think that we could get flowers on a subscription, did we, at one point? Or beauty
you're
products,
absolutely
razors,
right.
that kind of stuff.
Another quick example on that was there's a company that we know which does IT services, and they were always taking the phone calls and trying to provide their staff doing the reactive support, and it was in these kind of like ERP systems, if you like. And so I advised them when we built these managed service packages, say like, well, there's the phone up and you get one lot of report, but we have these managed service packages. If you want immediate reactive support to your business, you need to join one of our managed service packages, and there's like the gold, silver, bronze or whatever, different price packages. And so then you say to the people that are phone up going, I don't want to join one of those, but I need you today or tomorrow. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks. Okay, because we don't do that kind of reactivity, because our managed service clients get that reactivity, and you can join the queue. I'm really sorry, but you can join the managed service package. And so it took somebody who just completely couldn't see a way to say, well, I have to react, and go, yeah, you give them a way to react. But you give them choice. There's the slow path or the immediate path. And then it builds your recurring revenue stream.
Because we're all used to the queue jumpers now in roller coasters, aren't we? In the front of the line. So we're kind of used to that system now.
We might be needing that next week.
Yeah. And then what does being exit ready actually look like in practical terms, like real talk?
Real talk. I think it's being able to walk away from your business and somebody else being able to pick up the keys and say, well, I can carry on. And they're not, most people looking to buy a business aren't looking to buy a job. And I think it's remembering that, like, well, you can come in and do exactly what I'm doing and just sweat your ass off every day and do all these things. Like, well, why would I want to do that?
Get a lot greyer.
You might. So being exit ready is, are there a team in place that can work? Okay, they might need strategic direction. They might need, month to month oversight and management, but can they do the function of the business day to day? Are the systems in place? Have they got the HR contracts? This is the stuff that people need to see. It's like called your data room, and it's often you put it together in business, but is everything there that you can serve up to an inquiring company, and you say, I need this, I need that, I need to see this, and you go, it's already ready. We keep this here all the time for inquiring people. You can go in and see it, and this is how we run our business.
That's good. Thank you. Let me just double check I've not forgotten any, because whilst I've got you here. What's one thing, so you know how I told everyone to do an action, what's one thing now that they could do this month to just getting that little bit closer to exit?
Well, I think it lines back to what you were saying, which is, how do you take yourself out and take those, you called it like taking windows, and I think it's a great way of saying, how could I take a window? If it's, obviously if you are the business currently, then maybe I would say, well, how could I not be the business one day? But if I'm further down the line, and how do I take myself out and take myself some bigger windows and make this so that the business doesn't rely on me? And sometimes it's taking that short-term investment into your business to say, I'm going to take more of my working capital and I'm going to invest in some new senior people to run this a bit more, which is the bit I've been avoiding doing because it's going to cost me money, and I need to see some more sales come in to do that. And you know what? The reason it's worth doing sooner is because if you think I want to sell next year, I'm just going to go and recruit someone, put them in. There's a really good chance the first person, they won't work, and you need to let them go again. And it might be the second or third person that becomes the team member that actually works. We do it all the time. Putting management teams in is hard to get it right, and it's not. Don't try and get it perfect. Just try. If you can make it work, do. If it's failing, push them out and start again.
Amazing,
thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And then the other gentleman sat next to me is Gary Parsons. So Gary, you exited your business fully.
Officially in 3rd of February.
So
yeah.
Close. So maybe my first question might be one that we need to reflect back on in another year as well. Honestly, do you ever regret selling?
I don't. I really don't. And, absolutely, yes, I left in February. I really left last March. My spirit left last March, as if you were. I signed on a dotted line at somewhere at the end of January. So, no, I really don't. And it's not, it's not been easy. It's never is. Think back to that day when you very first started your own business. or whatever it is that you go out on, you go, right, I almost feel like I've gone back to school again and I don't know how to add up. I feel like I've lost all of those skills that I've developed all over those years. It just has gone from me in moments. And going out on your own is entirely differently from this business that you've just built up and scaled and grown. So, yeah, it's been a year, a year and a half.
Wowzers. And how does it feel emotionally though? Because we create a business, don't we? And a lot of the time we refer to it as our child. Don't you?
Yeah, my baby.
But that's a big step to then step away, isn't it? And I know you said you kind of emotionally left perhaps sooner.
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right. I call it my baby, and the reason why I say that is that my business wouldn't be called what it was, or is, should I say, unless I'd argued over 2 days that we were going to rebrand and a year in. So it literally is called that because of me. So I've named it, so it is our baby. But you ask about emotionally, where am I at? Do you know, I struggled with it, and I think this is why I spent nearly a year trying to exit, because I thought, do I leave now and, cut everything off and give my baby away that I've looked after and nurtured for 15, 16 years? Or do I walk away knowing I've done everything I possibly can do? It's ironic. I know we normally say 18, don't we, for a child to leave the nest, or 25 or whatever that is these days, when they can finally afford to put a mortgage payment
I don't
down.
know if we just go, bye.
Yeah, bye. Yeah, absolutely. There's a shed at the end of the garden, so we've all got a home office now.
Parents have to move out now, don't they?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they've got to downsize and move out. So yeah, from that point of view, I've been on that journey for a while, I guess. So emotionally, yeah, I stepped away and went, right, I'll be non-exec, I'll do that. It took me 6 months before I went, I've emotionally moved on now and I'm ready to do it. And it, yeah, absolutely was the right thing to do.
Amazing. And did you work out your number before you sold? You don't need to tell us your number, obviously. But
Did I work out my number? I worked out when I was going to leave.
Yeah.
I've left 3 or 4 years earlier than that. Not because I've not 25 and made millions and done it.
60.
Not because I'm 60, thank you. 42, just for clarity there. So 41 when I left. Yeah, thanks for that. No, it's fine. Yeah, I used to like you. But we always said. So my business partner and I, so there was 2 of us that co-founded the business. We always said that we'd be mid-40s. So 45 is where I said that I would leave the business. That did change, and he's now said they can carry me out in a box. Some days, I maybe shouldn't say it on film, some days I wanted to be that person that did it, that carried him out in a box. I'm sure he felt the same the other way around. But his number, his date changed.
Yeah.
My number, I've got to say, my number became irrelevant because, and you know the story, and I can touch on it briefly if you like now. So my number changed because I realised that so many more things were important in life than the number. I was a bit jealous of those people that car breaks down and they just get a new one, but they've never got any money. And I'm like, how did they do that? I've become dependent on a number every month. I'm single. I live on my own. I've got a beautiful 3-bedroom house in Belper, which the prices seem to go up every day by the tens of the thousands at the moment. So I'd accustomed my lifestyle to a certain way. In 2017, I got diagnosed with depression. At the height of our business, we were winning awards, we were turning over a decent amount of money, and probably 7 figures at that point. And I realised that so many more things were important in life than business. So I sat down and went, and probably that reduced my number. I didn't have one as such, but actually, yeah, I did, thinking about it. I'm reflecting back because it's that irrelevant to me now. Yeah, we did have a number. A little bit like what you said, it was like we've now split that in half, and then we take a bit of tax off and plan all that in, because people forget you might get that number and then you need to think about the tax. So really you've got to think about that beforehand, unless you've got an amazing accountant to help you plan ahead with that. And I don't think you're a miracle. I don't think you're a miracle worker though. I don't think there's quite, still got to pay quite a decent amount. But yeah, I think over 2017, the 4 years that followed, and I spoke very openly about this over the last year, I developed that system and grew the business at such a level. I made myself redundant. When I told the team that I was leaving, they went, oh, who's going to do all Gary's work? And I had to shamefully admit I've not really been doing anything for about a year, and just been in the office and made lots of nice tea. Probably should have just gone to a beach somewhere, but they were like, who's going to do all your work? So
who's going to do all the tea making?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Debbie's a great tea maker, and payroller and everything else. But like that for me was like, no, this is more of a purposeful change for me. Yes, the number mattered because I was going to go into uncharted territory, something that I'd not done before but had. And wanted to find out that journey in a way, and that savings pot, that money that was in my account, wasn't going to last forever. And yeah, certainly used that a lot in a year when you were acclimatizing for the less amount of money you've got.
And I love the fact that you've touched on this, because this is something I'm talking quite a lot for those that see me on the LinkedIn feed. I'm so sorry. But actually challenging that number, and that's why I'm kind of going back to the guy as well, Shaun. Because I think sometimes we're so influenced now, aren't we, by what we see, Instagram, like you need a certain car and you need a certain house and you need a certain holidays even. And it's actually going, well, what's really core back to us? Like what's really important for me and my values? And that might be a really simple life. And it's actually kind of then trying to build that number, because I think the happiness surveys is, I think it's 60 to 90 now or something, which is still quite a high number, isn't it, in terms of income?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But I think that's more, again, you're paying for a mortgage, you're paying, all that kind of element. So it is really starting to think about your situations, and there is more to life.
It is, and as you know now, I mentor leaders on managing their own well-being and being a bit more selfish, or being as selfish as they can be, but not in a negative or like egotistical way. Actually, it's like if you start putting yourself forward, and you I was talking to somebody, I love analogies, it's like, that battery health we got on our iPhone, and I'm looking at getting a new one and it says 86%, and I'm going, I could last that for a couple of years, it's doing well, and I can keep charging that up, and it's fine. But the more you put in, the more overworked you are, the more you burn yourself out, your battery health can't recharge to 100%, it'll only recharge to 50. I don't want to, and didn't want to, exit my business when my battery health was at 40, 50%. I wanted a life after business. And now I work with people to go, yeah, absolutely, your number is really important. But whose number is it? Is it yours or is it somebody else's? And what is that lifestyle looking like for you now, and what matters more? And for me, my own mental health and my life, and I mean that if I go too dark, but like I want to live, and I got to the point where there was moments where I didn't, as hard, challenging, as triggering as that might sound, those thoughts were going, do I really want to even live, let alone be in the business? And that's so important, because we are human beings, we've got family, friends, people that love us, we enjoy things, and that's not healthy. So that's why that number becomes irrelevant, because you've got to balance that out.
Yeah, and I guess for you as well, you've now found another purpose that you can help to plug that gap as well. And I guess that's a good reminder for us all as well, isn't it? That actually we may exit our business, but that doesn't mean that's the chapter that you end on. It's not just retirement.
And I think you touched on it a moment ago as well, sorry, is that it doesn't need to be 65. It can be 25, 35, 45. It can be tomorrow. You could now reflect and go, oh God, Gary's right. Please think a bit more carefully before you do. Not just a day. But and you could exit. There's somebody that I'm working with at the moment, and she wants to go travelling for 3 months. And I went, what does that look like? And she went, well, I want the business to exist. And I went, is it an option to sell your business? And she went, I've not even considered it. And I went, well, is it an option? It doesn't mean you have to, but if you want to go and travel, do you keep the business to let it run, or do you exit completely? And we ran through value, and there wasn't the value in the business to be able to sell. So she was like, actually, I might as well keep it going and get I think it was like 20 grand a year that she's getting out of it. So it was a okay amount for her. And that was important. And she said, you know what? what that does is it enables me to let that run, because it's never unhealthy to have a business that can run and you can be redundant in your own role and it run without you, and you maybe nip in every so often. And she's going, well, and what came out of that? She went, do you know, there's probably 3 things on my list that I really want to do, but I've never thought about it, and they really connect well with that business. And I went, great, go and play, go and explore, go and see what you can do, and use that business as a platform, but don't depend on it. So there's so many options. It's not as black and white, and I think culture has changed where people now don't stay in jobs for life. They leave after a couple of, was it 2 years, are they now saying? In IT, they've been saying that for years. But so a business doesn't have to be for life. It can be for Christmas.
It could be for Christmas. But then it comes back to again, doesn't it? If you actually get it to the point where it's ready for exit, you could go and enjoy those 3 months. And as long as you've completely got that sorted, you up for me going for 3 months, leaders? But if that's fully understood, and that's part of what it is, and you've got the structure set up, that doesn't mean that that's not something that it's like the armour we wear almost, or that badge of honour that I grind and I work for 60 hours, and
I get up every day at 5 o'clock and I'm doing 12-hour days and I'm on it. No, you're like, why do you don't have to do that?
Your business should serve you.
Work smarter, not harder. The other thing I was going to say as well, briefly, is consider the risk that's involved in that. So actually, yes, she's stepping outside, but that business is going to operate. There's going to be risk there, and you both touched on it in a presentation. Just because that business is worth £1 million now or £10 million now, you step away from it, you've still got to report to HMRC. I've had over the years HMRC do random spot inspections. Once on my 30th birthday, I did thank HMRC and their 2 supervisors and the external auditor for coming to see me on my birthday with a big 30 badge on. But they turn up, they do inspections, and I'm sure you've seen them. They want to get answers. Something is not in place that you've been out of the business and to the best of your ability it's running as much as it could be. That could be a risk that could land you in very hot water or completely lose the value of your business. So maybe it is better to leave that business rather than build a side hustle. So there's all of these things that will keep you awake at night trying to work out what the right decision is now, basically. Yeah, so there's no easy option, but absolutely the right option I would definitely encourage people is what matters here and what kind of doesn't keep you awake at night.
I think you've just lovely answered that question as well, haven't you, in terms of how do you think business owners can prepare themselves, not just practically but personally, for life post-exit?
Make yourself redundant as quickly as you can do in the most sustainable way that you can. Build a sustainable business that doesn't need you, doesn't need you. There you go, rely on you. Say need, it's an easy word. It doesn't need you. It can exist. Great. And if you can sell it, fantastic. If that's your aim, but it doesn't have to be everything. And I don't know the percentages of businesses that finally get the valuation that they really want.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like ever on what you just said. and I've dealt with that broker. Those 2 brokers that do that, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, and they do. The KBS, yeah. Yeah, I had I don't think their team will deal with me after the argument I had with them, but yeah, the business that we bought, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, he paid, I think it was over 10 grand to advertise his business. Great, we managed to find him and we bought it through a broker. But yeah, that's fun.
Amazing, thank you. And I really like the balance of it all as well, because it's quite nice, isn't it, to think about it, because we're all different, we are all different, and there's not a set journey. And I'm trying to think, there we go, run your business on purpose or risk exiting by accident. I think that's just a nice kind of little summary.
I didn't write that slide.
No, that was me.
Yeah.
I was going to say something that I had a thought before I saw that slide, so it's poignant that, I like a phrase that everybody exits one day. And if that's through a coffin, like you say, through an emergency, if you put in your mind everybody exits.
The only certainty.
There is no person that infinitely stays in their business. It's guaranteed. So it's really how are you going to exit that business.
Brilliant. I'm going to go get a cold drink. I don't know if anyone wants to join me. Thank you. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. I'm really warm now. You might.